Welcome to March to the Pod, currently the only podcast designed to exclusively talk about the Sam Houston Bearkats. In this episode, we have an offensive line preview and updates from training camp. What did we learn from Sam Houston's renderings on upgrades to Bowers Stadium? And we're going to take a look at the big weekend, which capped off a big summer for Cats golf. And I think before we really get into this here, Ben, and we get fully into the introductions, I think exclusively talk about the Sam Houston Bearkats. It's going to play a role in this podcast a little bit, this episode.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like you said, exclusively for the Bearkats, the only one that's exclusively for the Bearkats, as far as we know, maybe not others.
This we're going to give you the definition of exclusively. It's going to be great.
Yeah. We'll try to make it as clear as possible.
That's right. I'm your host, Cory Hogue, the non-FBS insider at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Find me on your favorite social media channels at Cory Hogue Sports, all one word, CoryHogue, and then sports. I'm joined by the creator and manager of Sports of SHSU, also one word, on Twitter and Instagram. He's the chief operating officer of the Cat Fund and a proud Bearcat alum, Ben Sorrells. Ben, it's already here again. We have episode number 4 on this one, and we're just getting closer to the regular season, man.
I know you can almost taste it at this point or touch it. It's close, man. I know some Conference USA games get kicked off, I think, on the 26th in that week 0, and then we're right after. I mean, we're under a month officially now, so it's right there, and I'm excited, really excited.
Everybody across Texas has started camp now. From your D1s have been going for about a week now. Your D2s have now joined. Your D3s are joining. Now it's really picking up. We're getting into the good time here. August, we've got some NFL going too. Don't forget about that, man.
So, I guess you could call it the NFL, that the Hall of Fame game. Lights going out, showers not working afterwards. But it's NFL football, and we'll take it at this point.
And I know, don't hate on me, people, but I don't have a disdain of Stephen F. Austin, especially since I cover him. It's really good if I don't. And it was nice to see Xavier Gibson out there. Good guy. I know he gave Sam Houston fits for a few years.
He's a ball player.
He is a ball player, and you have to respect that. And he's also a really good person. So I was happy to see him out there getting a big return, getting his name out there. Hopefully he catches on there. And Taylor Grimes of UIW has been getting some shout outs out in Denver. Yep. So from a non-FBS point of view, I'm seeing it pretty well. From a Sam Houston point of view, as we get in there, this is completely off topic, by the way. From a Sam Houston point of view, where are we looking at some Cats in the pros, Ben?
Yeah, first one that comes to mind is Davion Davis. He recently just had a huge year with the USFL team, the Birmingham Stallions, and signed a 1-year, $1 million deal with the Cardinals. And so that's exciting. He's kind of floated around the league, but I think this might be a sticking point for him. And man, I remember a couple of years ago when he was with the Browns in the preseason, I think he had 3 or 4 touchdowns, and I thought that's where he was going to break through, but it just didn't happen. And so he's one. Cody Kress is still in camp with the Packers. So he's a guy to watch for. He might be able to make it as a returner or something like that. His great speed. Testing scores are off the charts. You've got Tristan McCullum with the Eagles in their camp, and then you've got Zion McCullum with the Bucks, 5th-round pick for them last year. So some Cats in the pros there, and some guys to watch for this coming year.
That is awesome. And hey, I've heard good things about Cody Kress up there in Green Bay. I have heard a lot of good words and some spectacular catches. And if you really want to get on a coach's radar, make a catch that gets talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And he made plenty of those at Sam Houston during what I think was his 3 years there. And I think he's a guy that can get on the field in multiple different ways, whether that be special teams, kick return, punt return, receiver. Had some of the highest testing scores out of anybody in this last draft class coming out of college. And so, I think he can make a team, and he's bounced around a couple times since he finished. I think he was with the Colts, with the Steelers for a little bit. So hopefully he can find a home there with the Packers.
Call that a bonus leg, people, because that's not even part of the show today. Technically, it wasn't on script. call that a bonus leg. Ben coming through
Yep.
clutch with when Cory just throws random stuff on there. Isn't that great?
I'm ready. I'm ready to talk whatever it is when it comes to the Cats.
That you are. And for those of you who don't know, we are a podcast on the Republic of Football Network and an extension of Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Please like and subscribe to the podcast and follow us on the various social media forms, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. And when we're talking about where you can find our podcast, Ben, you and I have been learning a little bit about that this last week. It is on any I'm going to say close to any platform you can think of.
Yep.
It's on your major ones, and then it's on some of those like Megaphone and some of those too.
Podbean, yeah, it's almost hard not to find us. I
mean, yeah, you have to try to not find us.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, we'll see.
We're also on YouTube. Hi YouTube people watching. It is great to have you along again. Ben, we're gonna, before we get into our 3 legs this week, which we've already given a bonus leg, and now we're gonna give a little more bonus, an update on our rivalry with Louisiana Tech. Basically, they haven't responded yet, and I'm feeling like they're gonna need to, but I think they will soon. I feel like something's coming up that Ben's gonna go lay down. He's gonna throw some bows.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to find out who our rivals are pretty soon.
Yeah, got to push the envelope going on the Louisiana Tech Go Tech Please Don't Die podcast tomorrow, the 9th. Not sure when they'll release it, but yeah, got to lay down the hammer, let them know we're here. This is our conference. They're a thing of the past, and we're the shiny new object, and we're ready to win some games. So yeah, I'm ready to go at it tomorrow night with the guys.
Yeah, no, that's going to be fun, and definitely something that look, we're getting a lot of interest too from the other podcasts around Conference USA and the other ones here. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be some fun banter back and forth. Speaking of fun banter back and forth, had a little bit of that with Ben Big Game Boomer the other day. Yesterday, they put out the best college football podcast for every school. Ben, I know we've only been around for a few weeks, but remember the word exclusively? Yeah. How do we not get put on that, man? He must not have been paying it. He had to have been busy.
Just like the guys that don't know that Sam Houston is redshirted, 15 to 20 of their guys don't do their research. Just like Big Game Boomer didn't do his research. Just another national media pundit not doing their job. No, I'm kidding. It is a little frustrating, but we'll get there. Only been around a couple of weeks. We are the only exclusive podcast talking Sam Houston athletics and Sam Houston football, and we'll continue to get our name out there as we go along. But yeah, it was interesting. That's for sure. The Group of 5 podcast is apparently the one to follow if you're a Sam Houston fan.
And look, I have nothing against the Group of 5 podcast. I've personally never listened to it, but I don't have a lot of time to listen to podcasts. I've been a little busy this week. For those who don't know, Ben, I've been at jury duty. That's about all I can tell you right now. And so
I'll get in trouble.
No. I've been at jury duty, so this week has been a lot of fun. But I do appreciate the fact that you came in there and give the little dig, at the national media. I like that, man. That's why we have you here. You're gonna express some of the Cat fans' disdain for some of these people. You don't even do your research on us before you speak.
That's just the way it is. We're moving up, and people just don't want to do their research, whether that be knowing who's the only exclusive podcast, or knowing that we redshirted 15 to 20 guys last year, or picking us last in the preseason poll, or whatever it might be. We're out to prove some people wrong and let them know who we are.
And that includes this podcast. We're out to prove you wrong. We are the place for Sam Houston Bearkats, the only place. And we have verified that for now. We are exclusively the only one. Ben, before we move into our first leg, I want to say we have had some people talking. We have got some talks going for us, for people who would like to be either a presenting sponsor or sponsor one of the 3 legs that we have of the podcast every week. If you are interested in that, please contact one of us. Either get a hold of me, or if you know Ben, go in there, get a hold of us on DMs on Twitter. You can email me at cory.hogue@texasfootball.com. and that's cory.hogue at texasfootball.com. We're willing to talk to anyone who wants to be a part of supporting the Cats and getting the word out there. And really excited, really happy with the reception that we've received, Ben. I feel like we've been welcomed with open arms, and that's always a good feeling when you're welcomed by the fan base like that.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it. I think it was last week, kind of the reception we got through the first few weeks, and it's just continuing to grow. So, yeah, anyone interested in sponsorships, we'd love to engage there, engage on social media, and hopefully just continue to grow from here. Like we said, this is just the start. I think this is episode just 4, so we're a month in and got a long way to go. Only way to go is up.
That's right. I provide my own little titles at the top of episodes. I do not do the titles you will find out on when you're looking at the podcast. But my personal title this week is How Do People Not Know About Us? I mean, we're here. It's episode 4, guys. Like, seriously, where you been?
Under a rock.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hey, yeah. Ben's been out at he's not been under a rock. He's been out at football practice and dropped an O-line preview, dropped some knowledge on us in week 1. And that knowledge, Ben, that is actually some very good verified knowledge from what I hear.
Yeah, dropped a little O-line preview last week and then had the chance to swing by practice on Saturday, which was day 4 of camp, and just got to kind of confirm some of the stuff I wrote down. And just looking at the O-line this year, and I think the starting group is pretty much solidified outside of any drastic changes or any injuries that come up in these next couple of weeks leading up to BYU. And so just a little look at it. I mean, at center, not Seth Colsheen, he'll be your backup. He's been on the team a couple of years now, played towards the end of last year. Ethan Hagler is going to start at center. He was your center for the national title team. Right guard, going to be James Dawn, guy who had a really, really impressive freshman year last season. Got to see a lot of action. I'm excited about him. Right tackle, you'll see Diari Patton. He's a guy that started 9 games for the national championship team. Played a good amount last year, was really good when he played. So he'll be there at that right tackle spot. Left guard is going to be Markendrick Bial. He's a guy that was at Tyler Junior College last year and went to Troy in the spring, was actually their starting guard during spring, but he ended up transferring back closer to home. And so he should be your starting left guard. And then at left tackle, you're looking at Grayson Jackson-Smith, another guy from Tyler Junior College transfer, had a really good spring at left tackle, had a bunch of FCS offers and some FBS offers. And so a very new offensive line this year, a lot of new faces. O-line was a spot that the team struggled in last year. So I think bringing in these new guys, bringing back Ethan Hagler again from that national title team along with Diari Patton, I think this O-line could be something special, and it's going to be really important to the success of this team.
That O-line's, I mean, name-wise, and this is where I actually can provide a little bit of knowledge to the people who listen to this podcast. When you're talking those guards and tackles at Tyler Junior College, I watched Tyler last year, and the one part that stood out to me that I was most impressed with was their guards and tackles. Their offensive line was incredible, and especially their left guard and left tackle. So if those two are now in Sam Houston, you add them with Hagler, who we remember, and Patton. Again, he was great that year. He was off the charts great during that championship run, and so was Hagler. I'm with you, man. I think we've got the solid makings here of an offensive line that, as long as they stay healthy, could provide some good moments for us this year.
Yeah, and it's coming off a year where there was a lot of turnover, and it was really a struggle, honestly, for the most part. You lose guys like Eliasa Anderson, who went to Western Michigan and started there. You lose a Prince Pines, who was a first-team offensive lineman at Tulane last year, was really good. You lose Colby Thomas, who's played in the USFL and the XFL, I believe. And so you lost those 3 staples, and then you redshirted Ethan Hagler. You knew it was going to be a down year, but you bring back Patton, who saw some good action last year and looked good again. You bring back Hagler, you bring in some really nice pieces from the portal. And I think it's got the potential to be a good line. They've got a gel. They've got to figure out how to work together, but I think they're in a much better spot than they were a year ago. And I think a lot of the success of this team is going to depend on it, and it's going to be interesting to see.
One thing I find interesting is I talk to coaches around the state of Texas, and we talk a lot about O-line play because O-line and D-line are where most of your football games are technically won. If you can't block someone or they can't block you, it's hard to either move the ball and score. It's also hard to stop you on the other side. So those two parts are definitely, to me, the biggest keys. And when I talk about them every year, I hear coaches, we got a couple to replace. We got to get the communication. Unless you return all 5 guys every single year, which is very rare at any level of football, every team is going through the same issues right now along their offensive line.
Yeah, and Sam Houston is right there. And to add to it, they've got a new offensive line coach. Coach Bassett left about a week before spring ball to go to Utah State, and bringing in Brian Natkin, who was most recently with the Arizona Cardinals. Also has some experience, I believe, coaching at UTEP. And so bringing a new coach, bringing 3 or 4 new starters, I think it's really about how they gel. I think the talent's there. It's just a matter of how it all comes together. And we saw last year with bad offensive line play, you're not going to score a lot of points. And so, it's going to be critical to success and one of the biggest keys of the season.
Yeah, we also saw that it affects an offensive coordinator too when you don't get the O-line. I mean, that's where it starts, man.
Yeah. Offensive line had a lot of turnover. That was part of it. I know. We'll move on from John Perry.
No, I mean, look, there are other issues, of course, right? That's
that was
not the only
part
one, but that also does not help. That's not a good start. So if they could come in and get that line going here to start early or within the first couple of weeks of the season, it will bring good things. Again, as long as they stay healthy, Ben, my one concern this year, just about every position, is quality depth. I don't want to hear numbers. We all have depth. My concern is quality depth.
Yeah, and I think the spot I think there is a little bit of depth there that they feel confident in at the guard spot. You've got William McCollum, who's 6'4", 350, another JUCO transfer with a lot of experience at guard. You've got Khalil Miller, who was an all-conference player at Davidson, another guy that could slot in at guard. You bring in Rhett Larson, a SMU transfer at tackle. Seth Colshine's seen a lot of time at center, especially last year. And so kind of some unproven guys, but with a lot of high upside, maybe some younger guys or JUCO guys. But I think there's pieces behind them, but obviously you want to rely on your top guys and hopefully not have to dip into your depth as much as you can,
Well, of course, that's the goal, but we also know this is football. And injuries and things are going to happen, whether it's even just for a play or a series during a game. Those things, they are going to happen. It is a physical game. So, and that's the one thing, you'll hear this a lot from me. Quality depth is the one thing that will be hard to find for Sam Houston for the next few years, because that takes time to develop. But they're on the right path, and that's what's important. You got some other updates from training camp, including a couple scrimmages coming up. And are those things that people can get out there and watch?
Yeah, so not that I know of, everything is closed to the public, just media only at this point. But yeah, scrimmages, full team scrimmages, August 12th and August 19th. So Saturday, this coming Saturday, then the following Saturday. And that's 2 of the really only days that the team goes live. A lot of people don't know, but Casey Peeler teams don't hit a ton in the off season. They only go live probably 3, 4, 5 times throughout all of training camp as far as full pads and full contact. And I know he's talked about that before, so it'll be really interesting to kind of see what comes about it. I know a lot of eyes will be on the quarterback position. That's still up for grabs. I've heard that the team would probably like to make a decision on the starter after that second scrimmage or shortly after that second scrimmage. So yeah, a big week and a half coming up with these 2 scrimmages, and I think we'll learn a lot about these teams.
Hey, Coach Keeler, get your phone ready. Right around the 20th, 21st, and we'll start texting you just randomly about quarterbacks, Coach.
That's that second all-team scrimmage, and so nothing for sure, but I've heard that's kind of a timeline they're looking at. I think we might know more after this first scrimmage. But yeah, I think we can expect to probably see a guy named shortly after that second scrimmage on the 19th or probably sometime that week.
Well, do you have any other player updates from that you've seen out there, and especially updates again injuries? Man, we got to be on that front all year long.
Yeah, team is still looking relatively healthy, looking pretty good. I mean, everybody at practice when I was there Saturday was a full participant or almost fully participated, which is a really good sign. Some player updates, some guys that continue to stand out. Quaves Humphreys continues to just look incredible in training camp, and I think he's going to be a stud at the wide receiver position. 6'3", runs a 4.40. The guy is just a freak. And then a guy that's not getting a lot of respect, I think, by a lot of people is Markel Perry. And we've seen what he can do. His last 2 seasons, he was fully healthy. I think he put up 15 plus tackles for loss. Only played 1 game last year against A&M, had like 7 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. And so a lot of people will look at Trevor Williams and Kavian Gaither, and rightfully so, but can't forget about Markel Perry. And man, he's an animal there in that jack role, playing D-line and linebackers. So those are 2 guys that have my eye.
That's one of those, the Markel Perry. I don't blame national media for not investigating and looking at the red shirt. I don't blame the fans. I mean, it's an out of sight, out of mind thing. Like you said, when he plays, man, he is dominant. And I think the fans, I think everyone remembers that. It's COVID, man. We don't know what the eligibility is of these guys. So it's hard to say, oh, Markel's back, because no one really knows
And he's been there a while.
the
You're
final
like,
roster.
yeah, you're like, oh, he's back. Let's go. Yeah, because he's been around for a while, and like I said, the 1 game he played last year, I think he had 7 tackles and 3 tackles for loss against A&M, and he's just an animal, man.
Yes.
I mean, and not a lot of people remember him, and when you combine him with Kavian Gaither, with Trevor Williams, and another guy people forget about, Sincere Jackson, who I believe led the team in tackles against A&M last year in the 1 game he played, he's looking really good too. I mean, that front seven, it's dangerous, and it's going to have to carry this team at times this year.
You know, well, and that's a good place to need to be carrying it from, is the front seven. Man, this is there are a lot of people who remember Markel Perry, and
Yes.
and they're called the opposing offensive lineman that went against him. He is hard to stop. It's gonna be fun watching him again this year. Did you have any other updates, or was that where we were on that?
Yeah, that's kind of where we are. Yeah, in the practice I was at, there was a heavy emphasis on special teams. So yeah, we can talk about special teams. I know Colby Sessoms, the Lamar transfer, has looked really good. So I think he's a guy that might be the leader in the clubhouse for that kicking position, but it's still an open competition with him, Christian Pavon, and Caden Lorick also. So yeah, that's another position to keep an eye on. Punter spot is locked down by Jaden Cardell, but keep an eye on that kicker spot, as it's still a fluid situation.
That's awesome. Hey Ben, you know where people could have seen that OL preview at?
Cat Fund, maybe. Yep, over on catfans.com.
That's right. If you're a member of the Cat Fund, then you get access onto exclusive content on catfans.com in the message boards, and you will get that preview first. You also get a whole lot of good nuggets first over there. If you want to know recruiting news, if you're always wondering what's going on, man, Ben's got you covered. The Cat Fund has you covered. Cat Fans have you covered.
Yep.
Ben, and again, we talk about this every week. You're going to hear it probably every week. It's very important to mention that every dollar of the membership, of your membership on Cat Fund, goes to the players.
Yep, absolutely. And speaking of recruiting news, we did just drop Sam Houston's latest commitment that hasn't been announced just yet. A local linebacker choosing to stay close to home. So information like that, if you want to hear about it, yeah, sign up for Cat Fund, and you'll get that information on catfans.com.
Yeah, and that is just cat-fund.net, I believe, correct?
.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of them are nets, some of them are comms, and I get
yeah, it's calm. I had to check. I had to double check. You were scaring me for a second.
Hey, leave it. Man, my brain is fried from the last couple days. That's all
I
I'm going to
bet.
tell you, dude. It is fried right now.
Yeah.
Hey, in case you missed it last week, Ben and Cat Fund and Cat Fans exclusive content, they were the first ones that showed the renderings and the inside looks of Bauer Stadium with the press box and the pavilions. And my initial impression, Ben, is it looks like, and now mind you, I get it. People, don't be mad at me. I just don't care about the pavilions because I'm not going to be in. Okay. But when it comes to fan engagement, you should care, and we are going to talk about that. I bet Ben cares. But what I want to look at is that press box, man. And I looked at that, and I see some things that I think they're doing it right.
Yep. Yeah, and so I had a chance to actually get a look at these a couple months back, and I was really impressed. And then they were shown off at the Scoreboards and Sneakers event that was going on last week, and we got a chance to look at them and see them again. And then yeah, we uploaded some of them in the Cat Fund page once we realized that the Heritage Magazine had them as well, the Sam Houston magazine. But yeah, we got on it as quick as we could, and yeah, finally got to look at them. Everybody did now, and I'm impressed. Like you said, the fan pavilions, I think they need to be shaded. I think that's my kind of big thing with them. Got to be shaded. But yeah, press box
Are they
initial
not?
impression. Renderings don't really show it.
No,
There's a
they
couple of
don't. Holy
yeah,
moly. I thought that was an umbrella. Now I just
yeah,
clicked it because honestly, man, like I looked at that, I was like, okay, that's a field. No, really, that's supposed to be the pavilion and there's no shade.
yeah. So there is a pavilion one there right now that's shaded, which is good. But yeah, got to get some shade there. But yeah, I really like the press box renderings. And just a couple different things. So from the outside view, you can see there's kind of four tiers to it, four different levels. And then when you look at the field level, looking up at the press box and the stands, you'll see kind of the stands that are there now. There's some club seating, and then there's a suite area, about 10 to 12 suites, and then there's a much bigger press box spot than there currently is. So I think it gets everything you need. I think it pushes the attendance up a little bit. Putting those club seats in, putting the suites in, adding about 500 pavilion seats, should add probably 2,000 or 3,000 seats, I would think. But yeah, I'm impressed, and I think it's a matter of just getting things rolling now. It's when are we breaking ground? What does this timeline look like? And we've seen the renderings, and now it's time to put a shovel in the ground and figure it out when we're going to build this thing.
Is it just me, or is this press box covering more of the stands than it used to? Because it seems like this one's going all the way down to like the last rows.
Yeah, it is. And they needed additional space. They needed additional levels, needed additional seating. And I think that's the reason why they have to do a complete teardown, is because they couldn't really build to the existing structure because of ADA stuff, but also how much you had to add to it. Also, with how far out you want to go with it, bringing it down to almost like the 10-yard line on each side. So yeah, a complete teardown. And I think it's going to add seating from left to right. You'll add seating in the club section, suite section, pavilions, and yeah, I think it'll get you close to that kind of 15,000 number everybody's looking at.
Okay, so now if we had one thing to say moving forward, we need to see, because you're not going to get people to buy to be at the pavilion if if they're not out of the elements at least partly. Whether they have some sort of a shade or something like that, it is necessary if you're going to ask people to be in a kind of more of an exclusive area.
Yeah, and like I said, there is that one fan pavilion that is at Bowers currently, and it's shaded, and it's been a huge hit. And I think partly because it is shaded and it's so hot for the first 2 or 3 months of the season. And so I think if you can get those shaded, it could be a really fun area. And they've talked about putting them on both sides of the stadium for the students and for the fans. And so yeah, getting shade in there I think is absolutely necessary and something you have to do if you want to get people to sign up for those pavilion spots. And maybe the renderings are just a little off, but I think they got to have it.
You're gonna absolutely love what I'm about to do, because I'm about to take us off script again. Is Coach Keeler a believer of the morning practices to stay out of the heat, or is he a believer in we're going to practice in what we play in because that's how you acclimate to that?
Yeah, so at least for this year, I know the team has actually bumped up practices in the morning a little bit. They started even at 7:30, 7:45 this last Saturday. And so I think at least for this year, it's a morning thing. And you start off playing at BYU, and then you play indoors at Air Force, and then you finally have an outdoor game against Houston. And so your first couple of games, first couple of weeks are all going to be in a relatively climate controlled area at BYU in the summer. That should be pretty nice inside energy. And then another thing I've heard the team talk about, and I don't know if they've done this yet, but Sam Houston hasn't played a ton of night games the past couple of years. I mean, I can think of Montana State, maybe one or two last year, but they've talked about practicing at night just to get used to catching the ball under the light, throwing the ball under the light, because it's a little different than just broad daylight. It's a little different under the lights. And so I think they're believing in the morning practices, and we'll see if they mix in some night practices also.
You mentioned that, and it is I think sometimes we don't realize you go to a Friday night game, it looks like the field is lit up, but that is not a lot of lights on there. And I'm not saying Bowers is a high school field. I'm saying that the lighting that you need for that is not enough. There are shadows. There are other things to think about. There are, the sun going down. That's been a big issue for the Cowboys at the really bad times, man.
Yeah.
And so you've got to think about those things. And so, yeah, I think that's important for them to get out there under those lights, because it's not NRG, man. NRG's illuminated. NFL stadiums are illuminated. Not always at some of these colleges. And whenever Bowers may be fine. When you go somewhere else, it may not be. So I think that's an important part as far as getting used to night games.
Yeah, and the team doesn't have a lot of experience. They've got some experience. I mean, Montana State a couple of years ago, they played Tarleton in East Carolina, I believe, on the road at night. But night games at Bowers, I think they played Northern Arizona this last year. Not a ton of them, and there's going to be a lot coming up this year, especially with these midweek night games. And you just got to take everything into consideration, and that's something Keeler, I believe, will take into consideration. And I mean, he's thinking about everything. He's a mastermind. He's a strategist. That's what he does.
Oh, he's every detail. That's him. He does not miss a minute detail. Okay, so we learned. And what we learned is about what we expected and what we had kind of hoped for, outside of we need some shade over at the pavilions. So what does this mean now for everyone looking forward to all this stuff? How is that timeline, and is there any chance that timeline gets moved up or pushed back?
Yeah, so we haven't really heard too much on the timeline. I think the only thing that we can kind of use as a frame of reference is the school is set to receive $40 million in Texas State University system bonds at some point in 2024. And so you would imagine that they probably get those bonds. Who knows? But it's probably going to be there to where renovations have to start after the 2024 season, would be my guess. I feel like it's too quick of a thing to kind of try and scramble to find venues when you're just a year away from 2024. That's a little too much. And so I envision a start after 2024. And it's going to take 1 to 2 years. I mean, it could take all of 2025 and all of 2026. So I would say 26 or 27 is when we see this thing fully put up, just because it's going to take a little over a year to break ground, and then it's going to take a year or two for us to build this thing. And so that's kind of my timeline for it. We haven't seen anything set in stone, but that's kind of what I would envision.
Okay. Now you're going to lead me to a question that you may not be able to answer.
Okay, we'll see.
If they're playing games while the renovation is going on, have they come up with a plan for what they're going to do for the coaches' boxes in the media, or for stats more than media, the things they have to have they come up with a plan for that?
Yeah, so no plan set in stone, but Bobby Williams did mention this in a Conference USA press conference, I believe, that the weekend that we did officially transfer over to Conference USA. And he said that they've had talks about where they might have to play for a year or two, because with those kind of large scale renovations, you're almost completely tearing down one side of the stadium, you're not going to be able to play games there really under any circumstance. And so, do you go play a whole season at NRG? Do you play at NRG, Rice, U of H, and where the Dynamo play? Where, so I mean, you're just going to have to get creative. Maybe a game at a high school stadium, as much as we don't want it. I mean, you just don't know what it's going to be, but I don't think it's going to be a playable playing surface for a year or two while those renovations are going on. You've got half of the stadium torn down in a massive construction site. You're not going to be able to play football there. So it's going to be interesting. And I think we are going to have at least 1 year of home games being scattered at NRG, Houston, Rice, Shell Stadium, where the Dynamo plays. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and then you got to think, even if they were to try to play it there, the parking around all the scaffolding and everything else that would go on there, it would be, nobody wants that, man. Not at Bowers.
It's not safe.
No, you know, I love the hill. I love all that, you know, the view walking up there, but we need to find something else. And I'm sure they're going to work on that. And that is something that Bobby Williams and company is definitely thinking about and will be moving on. Ben, again, for those who might be interested, if you want to be a part of this podcast, sponsor one of the legs. We have 3 each show. If you want to be a presenting sponsor, more than happy to say we're March to the Pod presented by, and give your business. If you are interested, please reach out to us. Again, you can hit any of us on our social media channels in our inboxes and DMs, or you can also email me at cory.hogue@texasfootball.com, cory.hogue@texasfootball.com. Ben, you want to talk about good things going on in Huntsville. Maybe these things aren't exactly in Huntsville, but there's a lot of orange doing a lot of great things. And I want to start with the Met Amateur Champion for the year in 2023, Ben. That's a heck of an honor and a heck of a place to start right there.
Yeah, and Josh Durman taking home that title this weekend. And yeah, we just really wanted to show some love to golf. And golf is a program not everybody knows about, but for someone that covers all the teams really closely, golf might be the most successful program on campus over the last decade or so. And the work that Brant Kieschnick and Jenna Young have done there has just been incredible. I mean, the men's golf team finishing 9th nationally 2 years ago. You have guys like Josh winning these big tournaments. In the off season, you see guys like Will Holcomb on the Corn Ferry Tour, and guys like Brett Gray winning Conference Player of the Year. And so, yeah, just really want to shine a light on these guys and girls and really what they're doing. And Josh, an incredible weekend and one of many wins for Sam Houston Golf this off season, and one of 2 just this weekend.
Oh my goodness, it has been a fantastic summer. And it's not just the guys, the ladies are doing it as well. Jen Earps was the WAPT Heritage Classic. Ben, she shot 8 under for the week. Now, I just want to say she shot a 72, 73, a 66, and a 69.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is how good of a golfer that I am. You could combine any 2 of those numbers of those 4 rounds, and you're probably under what I would shoot for one.
Yeah.
What she does, man, she's won the series point race. She's got an exemption into the Epson Tour. Man, that's some good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it is. And just an incredible weekend. And like I said, one of 2 victories this weekend, one on the men's, one on the women's side. And the women's team won the WAC this last year, is returning a lot of their top talent from last year. And it's just going to continue to be a team to really watch this year. And they just actually added Leah Alberto to their staff this last week. And she's a former Bearcat, holds a lot of accolades. I believe she was a Conference Player of the Year or a conference champion at one point. And so just love the culture that has really been set within that program and the accomplishments they have. And it's such a fun team to root for. I mean, I never really watched college golf before I started covering these teams, but man, when they get in these tournaments, I mean, you're glued to Golf Stat and refreshing every 2 seconds because these teams are fun to watch and they win a lot, and it's a lot of fun. We want to give them some love.
It's almost like I equate it to the Ryder Cup. just
Mhm.
all the time, right? Because they are competing and it is a team event most of the time. They do compete as individuals as well, but that is, I think, Ryder Cup, if you want to look at professionally, maybe the closest comparison to what the college golf is like.
Yeah, team event, and it really takes everybody. I know there was an event this last year where I think Josh Durman was our number four who won this last weekend, and he put up like the low score of everybody, of every team, and whatever event that was. So it takes everybody, and it's a team that's built on depth. I mean, there's a lot of people. I feel like there's every week somebody else is winning an individual title or competing at a very high level. And so if you haven't followed these teams, I really encourage you to. Brant Kieschnick and Jenna Young, Lake LaRue, and now Leo Alberto, they do an incredible job, and they've won a lot, and I don't expect it to stop anytime soon.
Okay, now I'm going to show some of my ignorance because I am not as connected to Sam Houston with some of this, but the name Kieschnick rings a bell for a Texas Longhorns fan. Is there any relation to the former Texas great Brooks Kieschnick?
Let me look.
Now, for
Um,
those who might not remember, because you're, I don't know, younger than me by quite a bit, Brooks Kieschnick was a pitcher, DH, first baseman. I think he played outfield some too for the Texas Longhorns. And there's one game that he threw in the College World Series. I remember it was 150 or 160 pitches. It was insane. He was such a good competitor.
yeah, I'm looking at his bio here, and I'm having to scroll for a whole 10 seconds to get to the bottom of it because that's just how much Brant Kieschnick has won individually and as a coach. But yeah, not seeing anything on Brooks, but if you ever want to read a novel on how to win in golf, I would go recommend checking out his coaching summary on the website because this will keep you occupied for a while. There's a lot of winning going on.
Well, it did, let's get into some of the winning they've done just this summer. We've talked about the Met Am, right? For
Mhm,
you got the Texas Am, the Danish Am, and the Moroccan
mhm.
Am. This is an
Yep.
international golf team. We're just beating up the whole world now, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned some of the other men's winners. I know Christopher Max. I think he won the Danish one. We had the Moroccan winner. Name is slipping me at the moment, but yeah, lots of winning this summer, and I expect it to go forward. And like I said, this is a team that just 2 years ago finished ninth in the entire country for golf, and so it's one of the best teams in the country. They consistently beat top teams in the country, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Well, I am looking forward to it as well. It is fun. It is a it's winning titles is hard. We have seen that. But if you want to talk about where the cats, let's talk about that for a second, Ben. My goodness, is golf, since we're talking about golf, is golf the sport that is best prepared to compete for a Conference USA championship?
And I was going to bring up that point. I think the reason that Sam Houston has been so successful at golf over the past decade or so since Brant got there is because of the facilities. I think it's called the Steel. I'm trying to look it up now, but their facilities are top notch. And there's a course about 5 minutes from campus, just across the highway. And so there's a reason why they've competed at a high level. I think you can attract recruits. It's a really obviously Texas has a lot of golf and that's part of it. But you have some really nice facilities you can show off, and you've got a course right there pretty much on campus. And so I think they're ready to compete. And I know we've talked a lot about how Conference USA is going to elevate these teams. And if you elevate this golf program even more, I mean, they could be competing for national titles. I mean, finishing the top 20 nationally, top 10 nationally a couple times. And so, yeah, it's going to be really cool.
The sky is the limit for the golf program. And Mr. Ben, we did it again.
We did it.
We
Yep. And the Steel Golf Facility. That was the
yes,
name of it. I couldn't remember what was after Steel, but that's what it is.
still golf. It makes sense, right?
Yeah, the Steel Robert and Aaron Steele donated the money for it, and it is a beautiful facility, top notch, that's for sure.
I drove by it actually, so I can attest to. I of course, from what you can see by driving by, I'm like, man, that's a really nice place.
Yep.
I'm not one that gets on the golf course because when I get out there, people get mad when you're taking 180 shots to get through 9 holes.
We got to get home and watch some football. We can't be out here all day.
You don't want to watch me golf, man. It's ugly.
I'm
Hey,
not much better.
Ben, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate what you bring and your insight to this program.
Absolutely. And as always, eat 'em up, cats.
That's right.